our last session, and then we'll continue with our current topic. So in last session, right, we had seen that how you are going to install Playwright on your machine. So we have just seen that how you are going to use Playwright on your machine. So that I'm saying this is nothing but Playwright session, and it is a 2. Okay, so if you see here, right, in last session, right, we started seeing that how you are going to use Playwright with JS. So if I need to use this, right, so we need to have certain prerequisites. You need to have some prerequisites that needs to be get installed. So what are those prerequisites? Means the first prerequisite is you need to install Node.js. Second prerequisite is you need to have npm. Means the npm means Node Package Manager. And then you need to have one editor. So here, right, in our current sessions, we are going to use VS Code initially. And then we will use the cursor AI editor. So when we are discussing on AI relevant topics, right, I'll tell you that how you need to use this cursor AI editor. So currently we started using VS Code. Yesterday I had shown you that how you need to install VS Code. And then you need to, and then you need to create a project. You need to create a project. Instead of saying a project, I'm simply saying you need to create a folder. Okay, you need to create a folder and you need to open that in your editor. And that you need to open in your editor. So these are like steps, right? So let us put steps aside. So you need to have these things. One is like you need to have Node.js, npm, and you need to have editor. And then you need to install Playwright. Now, as I said, right, if I need to install Node.js, now after installing Node.js, right, you need to check whether that has been properly installed or not. You can check by typing node -version, and you can also check the npm version by typing npm -version. Okay, so the same steps, right, which we have already seen in our last session. So what you need to do here is you need to just go to your Google Chrome and just type node download. So you will get Node.js. So click on to that particular site. So you'll be redirecting to that particular URL. And here, right, you need to download your Windows. Means if you are using Windows operating system, you need to download Windows. If you are using any other operating system, you need to select Mac, Linux, and you need to select the respective bit of operating system, and you need to install it there. So currently, right, my mission means if you just go to any specific folder, okay, if you go to any specific folder, what now here, right, you will have this PC, right? If you right click on it, if you click on properties, you will get a screen. And this will help you to tell you what type of operating system is installed on your machine. So my machine has 64-bit. So I need to install 64-bit relevant Node.js on my machine. So once I get this right, it is very simple. If it is Windows machine, right, you need to double click and you need to click on next. So it will automatically install on your machine. So whenever you install Node.js, you will automatically get it will also install npm, Node Package Manager. Then what you need to do here is you need to open your command prompt and you need to check whether both got properly installed on your machine or not. So for that, right, what you need to do here is you need to type node -version. Okay, so I had given 3 hyphens, so it is not working. Just give 2 hyphens. It should show the current version of Node that is installed on your machine. It should show the current version of Node that is installed on your machine. And as I said, right, if you install Node, you will automatically get this one as well. So you need to type npm -version. You need to type npm -version. You need to type npm -version. Okay, so if you see here, right, if you see here, right, so you can see, I mean, so you can see you need to have Node and you need to have npm because I'm planning to use Playwright with JavaScript. So if I need to run JavaScript code, right, I need one Node engine. So I'm downloading Node.js, and if I download Node.js, right, I'm also getting npm also installed on my machine. And what is npm? npm is Node Package Manager. Means if you want to download any Node.js libraries, If you want to download any Node.js libraries, then we need this npm. In the same way that how you do it as part of your Java, right? If you, for example, if I need to download any Java library, you need to have Maven on your machine, right? So you can add that as dependency, or you can run some commands from your command prompt to install those dependencies or plugins to your Maven project. In the same way, right, if I need to download any Node.js libraries, I need to have npm, Node Package Manager, Node Package Manager. Now the second, you need to install VS Code. Now the second step here is you need to install VS Code. So if you go here and if you type VS Code, and if you type VS Code and if you click on enter, it will actually redirect you to Visual Code, and you need to download based upon your operating system. If you are using Windows, you need to click onto this particular Windows to download it. If you are using any Debian or Ubuntu or Red Hat or Fedora, any flavor of Linux, you can download that specific file. And if you are using Mac, you need to download it. So once you download it, if you double click on it and if you click on next, it also installs VS Code on your machine. So now the first step here is you need to first open VS Code. So I am simply typing VS Code, so that you will get this VS Code app. So if you click on it, right, it will actually launch VS Code on your machine. It is actually going to launch VS Code on your machine. So this is like this is like means these are the two prerequisites. One is Node, second one is npm, and third one is VS Code. Now the third one is now I need to install Playwright. As I said, right, if I need to install Playwright, I can install that in two ways. So what are those ways? So first way is you can install Playwright using VS Code extension. Okay, or else you can install Playwright from terminal. You can also install Playwright from terminal. So you can install that in two ways. One way is you can install that as in Playwright. You can install that using VS Code extension, or else the second way is you can also install that from terminal. So to do this activity, right, first we need to create a folder, and then we need to open that particular folder in VS Code. And then you need to install Playwright. So if I need to install Playwright, right, first step is I need to create a folder, and this folder will act as your project folder. So once you get that particular folder, right, then you need to in that particular folder, right, you can install Playwright in two ways, by using VS Code extension, or else by using a Playwright from terminal, or else you can also install it from your terminal. So now the first step here is what I need to do is just go to your desktop. What you need to do here is you have two ways to do it. One way is you just open any specific folder, and let us say I'm going to music. Now under to this particular music folder, or under to this particular videos folder, any folder, right, like pictures folder. What you need to do here is you need to click on to this particular new, and you need to create a folder here. Now let us say I'm simply saying Playwright 2. I have created a folder. Now I want this folder should be as my project folder. Now what I need to do here is you need to just go to VS Code. You will have file. You need to click on open folder. Then you will get a pop-up like this. In this pop-up, right, you need to go to the folder that where you have created it. I had created it under to music, right? So I had clicked on music. Now I am selecting this particular folder and click on select folder. So that folder will be opened in your VS Code. If you see, right, the folder that what you had created, right, PL2, the folder has opened in your VS Code. Now this folder, I want to make it as my Playwright project. Means under to this particular button, this folder should act as my Playwright project folder. So I want to make this particular folder as Playwright project folder. So in this way, right, I can open any folder. I can go to again open folder, and again I can create a new folder, and I can simply say Playwright _3. Now, if I want to open this folder, I need to select this folder. So it actually opens Playwright_3. So in this way, right, you can create a folder in your local machine and you need to just browse that particular folder and open that in your VS Code. And you need to open that in your VS Code. Now, what I need to do here is, as I said here, right, whenever you're opening a folder in your VS Code, now this folder is like I'm making this particular folder as my Playwright project folder. Now I need to install Playwright. Now, if I need to install Playwright, right, I have two ways to do it. So first way is I can use extension. So what I need to do here is this third option, whatever you see here, right, this 4 square brackets. This is like a 4 square icon, right? If you click on this icon, right, you will get to this particular screen. Now here, right, you need to search for Playwright Playwright and press enter. So that in my case, right, I already have Playwright, so it is showing like this. But in your case, right, I'm uninstalling it. So normally, right, in your case, right, when you search for Playwright, it should show you like Playwright test for VS Code, and it should show this install button. Now what I need to do here is I need to click on this particular install button. So it will be installed as an extension or a plugin to your VS Code. But so once that installation has been done, right, you can see an uninstall or disable buttons here, and as well as you don't see the install button here because it has been already installed in your VS Code. So this is your second step. Now the third one here is, after getting this particular extension, what you need to do is again you need to go and click on to this particular Explorer. So again it will come back to your PL3 folder, which is the folder that you had created and opened in your VS Code. Now what I need to do here is, now at the top right, if you see here, you have a search. At the top right, if you see here, right, you have a search. You need to click on it. Then you will get an option called show and run commands. So you need to click on it. Then here you need to search for Playwright. You need to simply write Playwright. Then you will get test install Playwright. You need to click on it. Then you will get this particular pop-up where it will show you that do you want to install all these browsers, and do you want to use JavaScript, and you want to also add this GitHub Actions workflow. So whenever you're installing it using the extension, right, you need to select here. You need to select all these options and you need to click on OK. So it will automatically run few commands from your terminal. Okay, Okay, it automatically connects a few commands from terminal. And then it is going to install your Playwright under to that particular folder. It is actually going to install complete Playwright relevant files or libraries or whatever you say, Playwright relevant artifacts under to that particular folder. Now, if you see, right, it means that you have done with your Playwright installation now. Okay, now if I want to check what version of Playwright got installed. So you can, if I want to check what version of Playwright got installed, you can simply say npx playwright version. So what I need to do, I need to write npx playwright version. So the current version of Playwright that got installed on your machine is 1.54.1. 1.54.1. So how do you check the version? You can type npx playwright version. npx playwright version. So this is how that you are going to install Playwright for your project. So Playwright should be installed for every project to use Playwright relevant functions or methods in that particular project. So this is one way that we had already seen in yesterday's session. I just thought of recapping it. So this is like one of the way through which that you are able to install Playwright. Now the second way is, again, you need to click on this open folder. Now let us say I am opening this second folder where I don't have any files under to this particular folder. Now I want to create this particular folder. Now I want to create this particular folder as your Playwright folder. As your Playwright folder. What I mean, as your Playwright project folder. Now what you need to do here is you need to go to these three dots at the top right. You have three dots. Click on terminal and open new terminal. Click on terminal and you need to open new terminal. Now here, right, you need to run a command npm init init and you need to type play playwright and you need to write @latest. If you run this command, right, see, you may get doubt. npm means node package manager and I'm asking init means initializing Playwright library. And if you see @ right, latest, here you can give any version number. For example, if I want to install 1.54.0, you need to give that particular version number instead of that latest. If you don't want to install any specific version, then you need to use the latest. So normally whenever you're using Playwright, right, we actually always prefer the latest version. So we are actually running it. So when you run this particular command, right, you will automatically get an option that do you want to use TypeScript or JavaScript to write your code? You need to press the down arrow, then you will select JavaScript. If you click on up arrow, it will again select back this TypeScript. So you need to select this JavaScript and press enter. Then it is asking you where do you want to put your end-to-end test cases. So you can give any user-defined name or else you can go ahead by pressing the tab key. Means you want to store all your test cases under to this particular folder, which is nothing but a tests folder. Which is nothing but the tests folder. Which is nothing but the tests folder. Okay, which is nothing but the tests folder. Now if you pressing enter. Now if you are pressing enter, then what happens? It is asking you, do you want to add GitHub workflow actions? If you want to add, you can press true or else it is required. It is not required, you need to press false. Now it is asking, do you want to automatically install browsers? True, press enter. So it will automatically install all your browsers. It will automatically download the complete Playwright setup and it will automatically download all the browsers. And finally, you will get these set of folders and as well as files created under to the particular Playwright folder. So this can be done in two ways. You need to remember this can be done in two ways. So first way is you can use your extension to install it, Playwright extension to install it, or else the second way is VS Code extension to install it, or else the second way is you need to run only this particular command. What is that command? npm init. What is that command? npm init. So it is if I want to install from terminal. If I want to install from terminal, how do we do that? You need to write npm init and you need to write playwright @test latest or else instead of latest, right, you can give version number. For example, if you want to download any specific version, you can download that. You can download that by running any specific version. You can download that by running any specific version. Okay, so this is how that you are going to do your installation. Okay, is this part clear? So this is about your installation part. Now you need to understand. See, whenever I'm going to create a Playwright project, it will automatically create some hierarchy. It will automatically download some files, or it will automatically create some folders. So that is nothing but what I am calling it as it automatically creates some hierarchy. Now what is that hierarchy? Now you need to understand. So whenever you are downloading any Playwright, right, you will automatically get these folders. Okay, so first, right, you need to understand the first folder is nothing but node modules. It is like, see, normally whenever you are going to create any Java project, right? So whatever the libraries that you are installing it, right, they will be automatically added to your project under two reference libraries. It means whatever the jar files are required to run your project, right, that will be automatically added to that particular Maven project. In the same way, right, whenever you are going to run any node project, right, it means, for example, if you want to run any JavaScript code or if you want to run any Node.js code, right, you also need some jar files that should be automatically added. You also need some libraries that should be automatically added to that particular project. So all those supportive files or the libraries that are required to run your Playwright library, right, that will be added under to your node modules. That will be added under to your node modules. And then you will see a folder with name called tests. Okay, so this folder is for writing your test cases. See, when you're installing it, right, it has asked where do you want to write your test cases. Then you have selected then you had given a folder with name called tests. So it has created this folder with name called tests. If you had given here a different name, right, it would have created a different name for this particular folder. It would have created a different name for this particular folder. And any tests that you are going to write as part of your Playwright, that should be written under to this particular folder. So whatever the test cases that you're planning to write under to your Playwright project, right, that should be written under to this particular folder. Under to this particular folder. And then you will also get a file, you will also get a folder with name called tests examples. So if you click on it, right, they are going to list out the list of actions that but they will give you some examples that how you can use a few methods of your Playwright as part of your automation testing. It is an example which actually covers some action methods or some validation methods through which how you are able to perform action and validate your code. They will give you some examples. They actually give you some examples. And whenever you are going to give a folder name with the tests, right, or whenever you are going to give some folder name, right, under to that particular folder, it also creates a sample test with name called example.spec.js, where it contains two test cases. So this is your first test case, and this is your second test case. Wherever you see test, right, with open curly brace, this is your one of the test. Fourth line is one of the test, and your 11th line is your second test. So anyway, we'll see that. Means how do you identify test cases written under to your Playwright? So first you need to understand the hierarchy. So if you need to understand the hierarchy, what you need to do here is, first you will get a folder with a name called node modules. It means it holds all the libraries that are required to run your Playwright test. Second one is you will get a folder with a name called a test folder, where you actually write your test cases. See, initially we are going to write test cases under to this particular folder. It is not required. You can also create multiple folders under to this particular project structure to write your test cases at your component level. Okay, we'll see that in our upcoming classes. But as of now, just remember, it gives a folder with name called tests, where it automatically creates a file with name called example.spec.js, where it actually gives two test cases as an example. This is one test and this is another test. This is one of the tests and this is your second test. And then you will also get a folder with a name called test examples, where it will also add a file which actually helps us to show them demo. Like if I use GoTo, it will actually help us to open URL. And if you scroll down, right, if you see, right, if I want to type something, I need to use a fill. If I need to press enter key, I need to use a press method. If I need to check whether that particular element has a text, I can use to have text. So it is actually giving you some methods that are used as part of your automation, Playwright automation. So this is like example. This folder is not required. You can delete it. It is not required that you need to have that particular folder under to your project, so you can delete it. And then you will see git ignore file. This is like, means whenever you are dealing with any source code repository, right? Let us assume that. Let me just show you an example. So just to understand, anyway, we'll see Git source code repository in our upcoming classes, just to understand. So this is my local machine. Okay, and this is nothing but my source code repository Git. So this is nothing but my source code repository Git. So this is nothing but my local machine, and this is nothing but my source code repository Git. Okay, now this is nothing but source code repository Git. Okay, this is like what you know. So this is like what you know, your local machine, and this is nothing but your source code repository Git. Now let us assume that in my local machine I have created a project. Under to this particular project, right? I have different folders. Like let us assume that I have what you know, 3 folders under to this particular project. Now in these 3 folders, right? Whenever I want to push this code to my remote repository. If I want to consider only few folders from this particular project to track my changes, and I want to ignore a few folders which should not track those folders as my changes, so it is not required to push that particular code to my remote repository. If I need to ignore any folders or files, right, that I need to add that under to this particular git ignore. So if you see right here under to ignore, right, it is showing some folder path. If you see right, whenever you are pushing your code, it ignores node modules. Means whatever the libraries that got installed as part of your Node.js to run your Playwright test, I'm ignoring those libraries. And I don't want to push a test results folder. And I don't want to push my code from Playwright report. Means I want to ignore this report. I want to ignore this blob report. I also want to ignore this cache files which are created when I'm executing my Playwright test. So it is like whenever I'm going to try to push my code to my remote source code repository, if I need to ignore some files, then I need to write those folder paths under to this particular ignore. So this is nowhere relevant with your Playwright relevant module or the code. It is a git ignore file where you are going to place your folder paths, which should be not considered when you are pushing your code from local to remote. Means if you write folders, so a few of the folders under to this ignore, right? The files which are getting changed under to this particular folders will be not tracked when you're trying to push your code to your remote repository. So anyway, this right, you will understand more once we start discussing on source code repository in our upcoming classes. Okay, so you need to understand. Now. Now the next one here is package-lock.json. It is the same file that what you are getting it as package.json, but it is a temporary file that has been created for this particular file. So this file, right, package.json, if you are creating any node project, how you have pom.xml file in your Maven, right? In the same way, you will have this package.json file under to your node project. If you're creating any project and if it is of node, right, then you will automatically get this package.json, from where you can actually add your dependencies. What libraries are required to run your Playwright code, right? You are able to add those required dependencies, or else you are able to add your node dependencies to this particular node project from this particular package.json. Anyway, you will understand more once we add additional libraries, like when you are going to read data from Excel or writing data or designing data-driven tests, right? We will see that we are going to add an Excel library dependency or node library dependency to this node package.json, and then we'll start using those methods in our code. But any libraries, for example, if I want to develop custom libraries using Alluri, then you need to download that Node.js Alluri library to this as a dev dependency, and so that it will automatically add it to your node modules. Means whatever the dependencies that you're adding it, right? They will be downloaded under to node modules. If you run npm init, if you run npm, if you are going to run npm init means initialization. So anyway, that we will see. As of now, I don't want you guys to confuse. Just remember this package.json is like pom.xml file of your Maven project. In the same way, this package.json is nothing but from where you can manage your dependencies of your node project, from where you can manage your dependencies or libraries of your node project. And then you will see one important file called playwright config.js. See, normally, right, your playwright execution starts from this particular file. This is very, very important file as part of your playwright framework. This is very, very important file as part of your playwright framework. So you will see a file with name called playwright config.js. So normally, right, this represents configurations. So this represents configurations. So if I need to make it simple, right, see, I'll tell you. If I need to make it simple, right, see, whenever you are going to design any automation framework, that framework will have multiple components. That framework will have multiple components. If I say components means it has different folders. I mean to say it has different folders. Normally, right, these folders, right, we call them as packages. In our technical terms, right, we say it as packages. So it has different components. What are those components? The first component is configurations. Means you need to maintain global values. You need to maintain global values which are common at your framework level, that you need to maintain under to this particular configurations. And then the second one is nothing but you need to write utils. Utils means these are like common methods which can be used for any application. It can be used for any application. And then you need to write application common methods. It means these also represent common methods, but these are like common methods. These represent common methods which can be used only for your application, which can be used only for your application. And then you will see pages. Pages is nothing but what we actually call it as one of the design pattern that what we follow to increase reusability. It means you are going to maintain it as a page object model. You are going to maintain your pages as a page object model. Anyway, we'll see that. As of now, right, there may be few who does not have any knowledge in automation. So for them, right, it will be a little bit confusing, but we will see them in detail in our upcoming sessions. Just to remember, if I need to design any automation framework, right, you need to have configurations, you need to maintain utilities, you need to maintain application common methods, you need to maintain pages where you actually write locators and as well as methods for each page under to your project to increase reusability and to reduce maintenance. And then we are actually writing our test cases, and then we actually maintain a test data, and finally we generate test reports. So any framework in the market, right, if you see, right, you will see this is the main components structure of that particular framework. Now, if you see, right, whatever the playwright that you had automatically created, right, here you got a test folder where you actually write your test cases. And the configurations and the execution, right, will start from this particular file, where you are actually maintaining all the global values which are required to run your playwright test will be maintained under to this particular playwright configure.js. See, very simple. If you see a term called config, right, it means these are the values which are common at your framework level. These are common at your framework level. It means these values remain the same for any test case under to this particular project, or any test suite which is written under to this particular project, any files, right, whatever that you write under to this particular project, right, these values remains the same. These values remains same. That is what we actually call it as configurations. Now, this is the folder structure. Means, as I said, you right, majorly. Now, whenever you are attending any interviews or anything, right, they will definitely ask you, whenever you are installing a Playwright, whenever you have installed Playwright, what was the hierarchy of that particular, what was the hierarchy that will be created? Or else they can ask you what are the default folders that you will get as part of your Playwright installation. Then you need to tell them you will get a node modules. And then you should tell them that you will also get a test folder. And then you should also tell them you will actually get a package.json. And you should also say that you will also get a playwright.config. Playwright.config.json. Playwright.config.json. JSON. So these are the files that what you add. These are the two folders mainly you need to understand: node modules and tests. And these are the three files. So with this, right, you will also get dot git ignore. Git ignore ignore file. Git ignore file. So these are like few files. These three are nothing but the files, and these two are nothing but the folders that you automatically get it. So what is present under the mode modules? It actually has libraries. It has node libraries which are required to run your Playwright test. Which are required to run your Playwright test. Under to test, right here we actually need to write our Playwright tests. Whatever the tests that you want to write, right, you need to write them under to this particular folder. And git ignore is like if you want to ignore any files to consider from git. If you want to ignore files, if you want to ignore any files, any files without tracking from your git, without tracking with your git client, right? Then we need to write those file paths or those file paths under to this particular git ignore. And this is nothing but like pom.xml file, how you see in Maven, right? This package.basin is nothing but which helps us to maintain dependencies. Which helps us to maintain dependencies, which helps us to maintain dependencies or the libraries that are required for your execution. And this is nothing but the config file. Okay, this is nothing but the config file for your Playwright. Or else you can say your execution of your Playwright actually starts from this particular file. Okay, your actually execution starts from this particular file. So this is nothing but the file structure. Whenever you are going to install Playwright, right, you will defaultly get these files and as well as these two folders. Now the second part here is, now you have done with your installation. Now I need to quickly check by running a test. Now I need to quickly check whether I'm able to run my test or not. So if I want to run my test, right, I have a command called npx. See, previously if I want to install, I'm using npm. If I want to execute, I need to use npx and I need to write Playwright and I need to write a word called test. So if I want to run all the test cases that are written under to my project folder, I need to use this command npx playwright test. Npx playwright test. So if you see here, right, if you go back to your VS Code, and if you see here, right, this is nothing but the test folder, and I have these two test cases. It will automatically create this file during installation, and it also adds some two dummy test cases to it. It actually adds some sample test cases to it. It is like basic tests, just to check whether your setup is correct and you are able to run your Playwright test. Whether your setup is correct and you are able to run your Playwright test. So what I need to do here is, you need to go and click on these 3 digits, click on terminal and click on new terminal. Then you will get to this particular terminal where it actually shows you the path of your folder. If you see, right, this folder, you will get automatically that terminal will be opened in this particular path. Now, as I said, you right, first step is if I need to check what Playwright version is installed on my machine, I need to type npm Playwright. I need to write it. Whenever I need to execute, I need to use npx Playwright -- version. So it will give me the version of your Playwright that got installed on my machine. Now, if I want to run my test, then what I need to do, I need to use npx Playwright and I need to use a test. I need to, actually it was spelling wrong, so I need to use test, T-E-S-T, test. So it will automatically run the test cases that are present under to that particular project. Okay. So here, right, see, there are a few things that where we need to understand as part of configuration. So normally, right, whenever you open your Playwright config, see, it is actually showing a key value pair where you are mentioning a test directory as /tests. See, dot represents current directory. Dot represents current directory. So this file, right, is present in that particular folder called PL2. So now under to this particular folder, right, I want to run all the test cases that are present under to this particular test folder. So this indicates I am giving path of my tests. For example, here if I change instead of tests, right, if I create another folder under to it and if I give that name, right, it will consider that folder. Whenever you're running this command, right, it will run all the test cases which are written under to this particular folder. So test directory indicates, so whenever you're running npx playwright test, it will go and run all the test cases which are present under to this particular folder, It will actually run all the test cases which are written and which are present under to this particular folder. So that is the reason it is actually running. Means whenever I am running this npx playwright test, right, it will automatically run the two test cases which are present under to your example.spec.js. Example.spec.js. Now let me just see, for example, what I'm doing is I'm copying the same file and I'm pasting it here. And I'm clicking on function F2. I'm just renaming it. So I want to remove this copy and I want to say it is example1 spec.js. So any test that you're creating under to your test folder, you can give any name, but but it should be the ending, the extension should be .spec.js. .spec.js. Now if you see, right, I copied the same file. So if you see, right, in your first file I have two test cases, in your second file I have two test cases. And normally whenever you're installing your Playwright, right, you will defaultly get three browsers. Whenever you have installed your Playwright, right, you will defaultly get three browsers. One is nothing but what we actually call it as Chromium. Second one is nothing but what we actually call it as WebKit. And the third one is nothing but what we actually call it as Firefox. So you will automatically get these three. So what are those three? First one is nothing but Chromium. Second one is nothing but WebKit. And third one is nothing but Firefox. See, this WebKit is nothing but the Safari engine. See, every browser has some backend engine. But if you see, right, Chromium is an engine where it will be used by your Chromium browser, and Safari uses WebKit, and Firefox is also executed on Chromium. But when you are installing Playwright, right, you will defaultly get these three. One is Chromium, and second one is WebKit, and third one is Firefox. So whenever you are running a test, see, if I am using this command npx playwright, whenever you are using this command like npx playwright, PLAWRIGHT, playwright, whenever you are going to use this, right, let me just maximize it. Oh, sorry, it is going very okay. If you see, right, npx playwright. So whenever I want to run, right, if you click on up arrow, you will get npx playwright, and you need to write test. So if you run, right, it is automatically running the test cases which are present in these folders. So if you see, right, there are 4, and if you're executing these 4 test cases on those 3 browsers, so it becomes 12. So for example, let us first see, I'm deleting this particular file. Okay, I'm deleting this particular file. I have only one file where I have 2 test cases. This is your first test case and this is your second test case. If I'm running this, right, what happens? It will run 2 test cases on 3 browsers. So it is totally executing 6 tests. For example, if you go and if you see, right, let us say in this, right, one of the tests I'm commenting it. I have commented it. Now, if I run this particular command, right, it will run only 1 test cases on 3 browsers. So it is executing 3 test cases. It is actually executing 3 test cases. So here, right, see that just the basic check is you need to check whether you're able to run your Playwright test or not. Just the basic check is you need to check whether you're able to run your Playwright test or not. Now, second thing here is one important point that you need to remember here is, see, even though if I'm running one test, if I'm running it on 3 browsers, right, it is a little bit confusing. It is showing it as 3 test cases and it is executing that particular test. Instead of that, right, whenever you're running this command, you have an option called --- project. And you can give only one browser name. It means it will run your test case only on that particular browser. So if you see, right, it has executed only one test case on only one browser. So it is showing only one test case got passed. For example, if I uncomment this particular test which I had previously commented it, Now save it. Now save it. Now if you want to run it, right, again, if you run it in your Chrome browser, it will run 2 test cases. Because I have 2 test cases, it is getting executed on my browser, and it is Chrome browser. Now, see, the default mode, it means, see, whenever you're executing your Playwright tests, defaultly, it will be executed in headless mode. Means it is not opening your browser. It is actually not opening your browser. And it is actually running your test case. Whenever your test case is getting executed without opening your browser, right, that is called as headless mode. For example, if I want to run that in headed mode, for example, whenever I am running that particular test, I want to run by seeing the browser. Then what you need to do here is you need to add another one option called -headed. -headed. So if you see, right, it will open your Chrome browser, and then it is actually running your test, and then it is actually closing it. You may see that, you may get one doubt, sir, you are saying that we are executing 2 test cases, but I have seen only one browser. Why you are able to see here is, it is very simple. When you go to your Playwright config, you have enabled parallel execution here. So you comment this. If you comment this, right, then it will be executed in a sequence. So now if you go and if you run it, right, so it will execute one by one now. So first it will execute one test case, and then it is executing your second test case. But it's like, defaultly your Playwright execution will be enabled with parallel. So what you need to do here is you need to go to your Playwright config, and you need to just comment this parallel. You need to comment here, right, in the same way. But how you use it in Java, right? Double slash indicates single line comments. And if you write /*/ right, it indicates multi-line comments. You can just select that line, and you need to press control and forward slash. Control and again slash means it will comment it. This slash. This slash is nothing but what we are actually calling it as forward slash, right? So this slash you need to press with control, then it will actually comment it. So you're disabling parallel execution. So now again, if you run it, right, it actually runs those test cases in a sequence. First it is executing your first test case, and then it is executing your second test case. If you don't comment this parallel, right, both are executing in parallel, so you can't see whether both are open, both has opened the browser and it has executed it. So initially, right, I disable this parallel, so we will see, and if you after writing few scenarios, right, then I'll tell you that how you need to enable this parallel and how you need to use this parallel for your execution. So this is about your execution. And for example, here, right, these two are very important. So whenever you are going to execute, if I need to execute a Playwright test, what is the command? I need to use npx, and I need to write Playwright, and I need to write test. So this is going to run your Playwright tests, but it will run on all the 3 browsers. So instead of this, right, if I want to run only on selective browser, then what I need to do, I need to write npx, and I need to write Playwright, and I need to write Playwright, and I need to write a test. And after that, right, I need to give an option called project. And here I need to mention that particular browser name on which browser I want to execute. So for example, if you see here, right, I want to execute it on Firefox. Or let us say I want to execute it on Firefox. Now here, right, instead of Chromium, I need to give name as Firefox. And if I want to see headed mode, then I need to write headed. So it will actually open browser and it will execute it on Firefox browser. So if you see, right, now it is opening Firefox browser. And it is actually running those test cases. Okay, so in the same way, right, if I want to run it on WebKit, then you need to write here WBKIT, WebKit. So now it is actually executing your test case on WebKit browser. So it is actually opening WebKit, and then it is actually doing it. So it is executing in the same sequence one after other. See here, right? See, very simple, Ravi. If you see here, right, the test that what you are seeing here, right, this is a folder. Now, any file that you create under to that particular folder, that file represents as a suit. For example, now under to this, right, if I want to write one test case, I need to write, this is the name of that particular suit, and that file should contain spec.js. That file should contain spec.js. Is this part clear? It means any test that you are, any test suite or any file that you are creating under to this particular folder, it should have this spec.js extension. It indicates that it is a suite file. It indicates that it is a file where you are writing some test cases. Now, if you see here, right, under to this, right, here you are writing one test block, which is actually ending here. This test block indicates that this is a test case, that this is a one test case. And this test block indicates this is another test case. What you know, so you can write multiple tests under to a single file. You can write multiple tests under to a single file. You can write multiple tests under to a single file. Is this part clear? So you can write multiple tests under to a single file. So anyway, why we are writing this test block? What is this? What is this async? What is this open curly brace? What is this open and close circle brace? Why we are using this arrow? All these things, right? I'll tell you. What you know, we are not at that level now. We are just installed it and we are just checking whether we are able to run the defaultly provided tests or not. We are just checking whether we are defaultly running our defaultly tests or not. And another important thing here is, see, very simple. Whenever you are going to perform automation testing, see, the hierarchy is very simple. See, if I need to perform automation testing on any application, right? See, normally we need to pick some application, right, to test it. So that is your application. Under to application, right, you will see a lot of functionalities, or else you can simply say you will see a lot of features. Now, under to each feature, right, you will see a lot of functionalities. Okay. Now, under to each functionality, right, you will see a lot of you need to test a lot of. You need to test those functionalities with different conditions. Okay. So this is the hierarchy, right? In the same way, this application name is nothing but your Playwright project name. Whenever you are going to create a Playwright project, right, that application name is nothing but your Playwright project name. These features, whatever the features that you see, right, those features are nothing but your test. You are creating a folder with name called tests, right? In the same way, you can create multiple folders. Like you can create a folder for login tests. You can also create a folder with name called under to that particular test folders, right? You can create multiple. For example, I want to write registration, so I can simply say registration tests. So these represent the features. Now, under to this particular features, right, if I need to test it, you need to identify multiple scenarios. So these scenarios are nothing but what you are mentioning it as files there. Whatever the file that you create and with extension called spec.js, they represent the scenario files. Now, under to this, right, we are actually writing multiple test cases. And whatever the block that you write with open and close brace, this indicates a test case. If you see if you are seeing any code like this, right, here you can write multiple lines of code. But if you see any block like a test open circle brace and close circle brace with semicolon, this indicates it is a test block. This indicates it is a single test case. So this is how that you need to actually maintain your project hierarchy. So if you see, right, under to this particular project, now whenever I want to write test cases, right, I can create a folder. For example, I want to write a login test tests. Now under to this particular folder, I need to test login functionality. So I can simply say login.spec.js. Now under to this, right, I want to add multiple tests. So I can simply use a test block. Okay, I can simply use a test block. This indicates it is a test. So I have enabled Copilot, so it is automatically showing me the code. But normally, right, see, in this way, right, you can create multiple test blocks under to this particular file. Each test blocks indicates it as one test case. Each test blocks indicates that it is a test case. So if you have 4 test blocks, it means it has 4 test cases. It has 4 test cases. Now, what you write under to this particular block, right? You need to understand. You need to understand. But in Playwright, right, whenever you see a test with open and close circle brace, it indicates it is a test. It indicates it is a test. It indicates it is a test. Is this part clear? So anyway, that we will see. I'll tell you the basic, and then we will get into these particular tests. But in your real case, right, this is how you maintain. Based upon that, for every function, for every feature, right, you will create a folder. Under to that, right, you can create multiple files for every scenario. And for every scenario, right, you can write multiple test cases to test that particular scenario or that particular functionality. To test that particular scenario or that particular functionality. Anyway, it is too early to get into those details. So we will see first the basics, that why we are writing our code in this perspective, and then we will get into our actual perspective, that how you are going to design your hierarchy under to your Playwright project. So this is what that you need to remember. So one blind rule here is any file that you are creating under to tests folder. If you want to consider that as a test suite file, you need to have a name, and that should have extension called .spec.js. That should have extension called spec.js. Is this part clear, or any questions? Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, now we will see the details now. Now we will get into your actual details now. Okay, now if you see here, right, now the another important thing here is you need to remember, if I am writing -- project, and if I specify any browser name, it will run on that particular browser. If I want to run it in headed mode, I need to give this while running it, -headed. So -headed is for running your test case in headed mode. If you don't give this option, right, it will defaultly run it in headless mode. And if I say headless mode, means it does not open any browser. It will actually, without opening browser, right, it will actually run your test cases, and finally it will give you the result. But if you want to see that how that execution is happening, then you need to run it using headed mode. Then you need to give this option. Then only you can see browser is getting opened, and whatever actions that you are performing, right, that is performed on your application, and you are able to see that how it is executing on your browser, how it is getting executed on your browser. Okay, now the second one here is, see, Playwright. We are saying Playwright, right? Okay, we are saying Playwright, PLRIGHT, Playwright, and some people say it as a tool, some people say it as a Node.js library. Okay, it is nothing but a Node.js library, which you are using it for your UI automation, which you are actually using it for automation. So under the JS, so if you are going to learn any JavaScript, right? See, for example, every language, let me just put it as, every language will have some unit testing frameworks. So for example, if you see Java, right? You have JUnit and as well as TestNG as unit testing frameworks. If you see Python language, right, you will see unit test. We have a framework called unit test, and you also have a framework called PyTest. And if you see C# language, normally we say C#, right, .NET. In that also we have MS, you have MS test and as well as NUnit. As your unit testing frameworks. MS test and as well as NUnit as your unit testing frameworks. In the same way, right, currently we are using a JavaScript, right? Under to JavaScript, we have two frameworks. One is Just, and the second one is Mocha. Okay, and second one is Mocha. So these two are nothing but the unit testing frameworks which are available in JavaScript. So normally, right, whenever you are going to write your automation script, using other languages, like Java or something, right? It is mandatory that you need to use some unit testing framework. It is mandatory that you need to use some unit testing framework to get some features, But in Playwright, right, it is not required that we need to again we need to explicitly download it. Whenever you're downloading Playwright, right, you will defaultly get Mocha framework also downloaded. And that features, right, you can directly use it in your Playwright test. That features, right, you are able to use them in your Playwright, in your Playwright tests. Those features, right, you can directly use that in your Playwright tests. So whatever the block that you are seeing here, right, see here we are saying that we are going to write a test block. So this test block is from Mocha. This test block is from Mocha unit testing framework. See, very simple. Why I am giving this detailed explanation on it here is, it is not required that I need to tell you that we are actually using Mocha framework relevant features as part of your Playwright. Even though you have downloaded Playwright and you are trying to write some piece of code, right? So these blocks, right, we are actually using it from Mocha framework. And that is inbuiltly downloaded when you are downloading your Playwright library. When you are downloading your Playwright Node.js library. So, but normally, right, when you go through any videos or tutorials, right, they don't say that you are actually using Mocha framework features as part of your Playwright. They will say these are the features from your Playwright. Because whenever you are installing Playwright library, you will automatically, it defaultly installs Mocha, and it also supports all the features of your Mocha. So people write, they directly start writing using this test blocks, and they say that this is how that you actually write a test block in your Playwright. But this test block that what you are using here, right? This is from your Mocha framework. This is from your Mocha framework, which is a unit testing framework, which is available in JS. So you will understand. Means once we start writing it, right, then you will understand that why we are using these features as part of your Playwright to write your test cases. We will see that with some examples, then you will understand it. Okay. Now the first step here is, see, whenever you are going to create any file to create a test. So whenever you are going to create any file to create a test. So first step here is you need to write import. And what we need to import? We need to import two things. One is nothing but test, and the second one is nothing but expect. So normally, right, whenever you are going to write some Java piece of code, what you will do? For example, you are going to write some Java piece of code, right? If I want to write system.out.println, you actually import java.lang package at the top, right? In the same way, if I want to use this test block and if I want to use the expect to do your validations, we need to first import these two. First you need to import these two by writing them in curly braces. And from where I need to import them? From this particular library, @Playwright test library. So this is your first statement, that what you need to write as part of your Playwright test. And then you can write your test case. Now first right, as I said, right, whenever you are going to write a test, you need to write that test with a test block. And at the end, right, you need to put a semicolon. This indicates that it is a test case. Now here, right, for this test block, we need to pass two parameters. So first parameter is nothing but the test name. So I'm simply saying the test name is nothing but test name 01. I'm simply saying my first parameter is nothing but test name. And then the second parameter is nothing but I need to pass a function. So in JavaScript, right, we actually write a function using open and close brace. And this is how that we actually write a function. So whenever you are going to create any test, right, that test should have two parameters. So first parameter is nothing but your test name. You can give any name like sample1, sample2, sample3, login test, registration test, or forgot password test. You can give any name. And the second parameter is nothing but your function. And in JavaScript, right, if I need to write a function, right, we need to write this with this function word. Function keyword. And you need to write open and close brace. And you need to write open and close circle brace. It means I am creating a function. So see, normally, right, in other languages, right, see, whenever you go to any other languages, right, see, for example, if I need to write a method or if I need to write a function, what we will do, we actually write by giving it some name, and then you will write open and close brace, and then you will write open and curly brace, where what an inside to this particular open and close curly brace, right, here we actually write our code. So here we are actually going to write our code. Here we actually write our code. But in JavaScript, right, we have different ways to create a function. Okay, we have different ways to create a function. So the first way is you can create a function like this, or else if I don't want to give anything, right, you can also create like this. It represents it is an anonymous function. It is an anonymous function. But whenever I need to write like this, right, I will also use an arrow symbol here. But this indicates it is an anonymous function. It is an anonymous function. It means that function does not have any name. It represents that a particular function does not have any name. That function does not have any name. The function does not have any name. So normally, right? So normally, right? I'll tell you an example. So for example, I am going to this particular folder and I am creating a folder. And let us say that the folder name is I am simply saying sample. I am simply saying sample JavaScript code, or else I am simply saying sample.js. What I am doing here is I am dragging and dropping that particular file outside to this particular folder structure. So I am saying move. Now if you see, right, I got that particular file. Where I got that particular file, I got this sample.js. So it is a folder, right? So it should not have JS. So I am simply saying, this is like, I'm simply saying examples. I'm simply saying examples. Now under to this particular folder, right, I'm simply clicking on plus. This indicates plus means I'm trying to create a file. If I click on this, right, it will create a folder. So I have created a folder with name called examples, and I'm creating a file, and that particular file name is sample.js. Now in JavaScript, right, as I said, right, if I need to write a function, I need to write function and I need to give some name. And I can give some name. Let us say this is nothing but name of that particular function. I'm giving that name of that particular function as M1. And console.log, it represents that how you write system.out.println in your Java, right? Or else print statement in your Python, right? In the same way, if I want to print something on my console, I need to write that using console.log. It means whenever I'm executing this function, it is going to print this on your console. It is going to print this on your console. It is very simple. If you type console.log and whatever that you write here, right, that will be printed on your console. Whatever that you're writing within that double quotes, right, that will be printed on your console. That will be printed on your console. So if you see, right, this is how that we actually create a function in your JavaScript. If I don't want to give this name, I can also write like this. I don't want to give this particular name, right? I can also write like this. I can also write a function without giving a name for it. So if I'm writing any function without giving a name for it, right, that is called as anonymous function. That is called as anonymous function. Means, for example, if I don't want to give any name here, and I can simply say arrow here, it represents an anonymous function. It represents an anonymous function. It represents an anonymous function. Means this function does not have any name. So normally, right, whenever you are going to write your Playwright test, so that a test block should contain two parameters. First parameter is nothing but your test name, and the second parameter is nothing but the function. You need to pass some function. But I don't want to give any name for that particular function. So we are saying that this is an anonymous function. So whenever you are going to create an anonymous function, right, you need to write open and close circle brace, and you need to give this arrow function. You should give this arrow symbol here. This represents it is an anonymous function. It represents it is an anonymous function. Now under to this, right, just want to check whether I am able to run it or not. So what I am doing here is I am writing a console.log, and I am printing that particular test name. And I am just printing that particular test name, and I'm printing that particular test name. So if you see, right, what I have done, I have just printed console.log, and I'm saying that this is printing test1. Now, if I want to execute this test, it's very simple. So you got this block, right? So whenever you're going to write a test, right, it should be written in test block. And that test block will contain two parameters. One is nothing but your test name, and second one is nothing but your anonymous function. Now, under to this particular anonymous function, right, you can write any number of lines of code, like a console.log. Again, I want to write another line. Again, I want to write another line. Again, I want to write another line. You can write any number of lines of code under to this particular function, So if you see any function with open and close without any name, that is called as anonymous function. That is called as anonymous function. Is this point clear? That is called as anonymous function. Is this point clear? Now, if I want to run this particular test, right, see, very simple. The code here is you need to write npx, you need to write playwright, and you need to write test. And after do that, right, you can give the part of that particular file name. For example, I had written that in login, right? So I want to run it. So what I need to do here is I can simply say, I can give part of that particular file name. And if you press enter, it will run that particular test. It is running on 3 browsers. So it is showing that it is running on 3 browsers. And if you see, right, it has executed for 3 times. One is on Chrome and one is on Firefox and one is on WebKit. Okay, because see, I have not written any statements to perform action on browser. I am just printing it, right? So it is actually just executing this particular test case, and it is executing and it is just printing this, and it is actually closing that instance. Closing that instance? So anyway, I mean, it's like here our point is like you need to understand. So whenever you are going to create any test block, it should have 2 parameters. So first parameter is nothing but your test name, and second parameter is nothing but your anonymous function. So if you see, right, this is how that you actually write anonymous function. Anonymous function means that function will not have any name, and it will execute the code that is written inside to this open curly brace and close curly brace. Open curly brace and close curly brace. So this is how that you actually create a test. And if you want to quickly check whether you're able to run it or not, simply tell console console.log and write something to print it. Let us say I'm simply saying first test and save it. Now, if I want to run it, how do we run it? It is very simple. I need to use npx playwright test, and I can give file name. For example, here, if I want to run this example, what I need to do? I need to give example. So it will run that test cases which are present under to example. Okay, and if I want to run the test cases which are written under to login, then what I need to do? I need to give that particular name of that particular file. So I am simply giving here it as a login. I want to run it only on one browser instance. Then I need to give project is equal to Chromium. So it will run only once. And it is showing that first test got printed on your console. See, normally in a traditional way, right, in Java or Python or in robot framework or any other framework that what you are using as part of your automation testing, right, you have a different perspective that you need to create an object from some class, and then you actually need to launch browser, and then you need to actually write some commands to open URL. But that part, right, has been minimized in your Playwright. It is not required that you need to create instance for everything and you need to launch your browser to run your test. But we have some, I can simply say as of now for a layman terms, right, we have some fixtures which are predefinedly available in Playwright. If you use them, right, it will automatically open browser and then it will actually perform the actions of what you're writing as part of that particular test. But to understand that, right, we'll get into that level. We'll go in a sequence. So the first step here is, if I need to create a test, the first step here is I need to write this import statement where I'm importing a test and as well as expect. So here I'm only using a test. So it is required to import only test. It is not required to import expect here. Okay, and then, right, whenever you're going to write any test, that test should have 2 parameters. One is the name of that particular test, and second one is an arrow function. And second one is the arrow function. Now you need to understand a little bit. it's like whenever you're going to write your code in JavaScript, right? JavaScript is asynchronous. Means whatever the lines of code that you write, right? That lines of code will be executed asynchronously. Means, for example, if you write 5 lines of code in Java, right, it executes line by line. But in JavaScript, if you write 5 lines of code, right, all these 5 lines will be executed at a time. What it means it does not execute synchronously one after other. It executes asynchronously. So if I need to maintain synchronous while executing this asynchronous code, right, then I need to use some keywords called async and await. I need to use some keywords called async and await. So that part, right, we will see in our next class. I don't want to do it in a hurry. So we will see that how we are going to use async and await, and why we are going to use these keywords as part of your JavaScript code. As part of your JavaScript code. As part of your JavaScript code. See, normally, right, it is not any new. If you go to any blogs or tutorials, right, they say that async and await are new, with respect to your new node engine, new version of your node, right? These are these are implemented. We also have this in your old versions as well. But there, right, we used to call them as callback, or else you can implement that using a then, where it actually helps us to wait till that particular promise got completed. So it appears to be a little bit confusing. Means people, right, from different languages. Means if you're already good with Java, or if you're already good with Python, right, the way that how you learn JavaScript is completely different when you compare with your Java and as well as Python. So to understand that, right, we'll see a little bit basic. Then you will understand that what is promise, what is callback, what is then, and why you are using this async and as well as await. So as of now, right, I don't want you guys to confuse. Anyway, we'll see this with some examples, and you'll understand it. As of now, right, you need to quickly recap. You need to understand that how you are going to do your installation, what folder structure or hierarchy that you will get under to your Playwright project. And then you need to understand how do you write a test, how do you run a test. It's very simple. Then you need to understand how do you run a test, and how do you run a test on a specific browser. How do you run a test on headed mode? In a headed mode, normally when you're running it, right, it will defaultly execute it in headless mode. But you need to run that in headed mode. So you need to use --- headed option. You need to use --- headed option. Okay, and then, right, whenever you're going to write a test in JavaScript, you need to remember this import statement. Import a test from Playwright/test module. And then you need to write a test. And this test block will contain 2 parameters. One is nothing but the test name, and second one is nothing but the function. And this function is anonymous function because it does not have name. So if you write any function without name, that is called as anonymous function. Okay. So if you're good with these things, right, then we can wind up for today. Tomorrow also same time at 9 a.m. Tomorrow also same time at 9 p.m. Okay, and see one thing that I can sense is like, there are few terms which are completely new when you compare with other languages. But I will try my best by writing that using multiple examples. But still, if you see, right, that you are not able to get it, or you are not able to understand it, right, please ask me at that point of time, because these are very, very important to write your test as part of Playwright using JavaScript. So those are very important. So we'll go in very detail. I'll give you a couple of examples as a layman, and I'll also explain you that why we are using this perspective. But you need to understand it, because these all comes under to your interviews. Means whenever you attend any interview, right, they will ask you how do you write a test, why you are writing here anonymous function, why you are using here async, why you are writing here await, how you are saying that JavaScript is asynchronous. So you may get such questions. So you need to understand them in detail. So as of now, right, you should understand only how do you create a test block, and test block contains 2 parameters. One is test name, and second one is anonymous function. What is anonymous function? Means any function without a name is called as anonymous. Function. Is this part clear? Any questions? on today's session? So if you guys are good, we can wind up, and tomorrow also same time at 9 p.m. And please practice in the same way that how I am doing it on my mission, so that if you have any questions, right, I can help you by elaborating it. And another important thing here is when I'm explaining it, right, it appears to be very simple because I know what is right and what is wrong. When you start practicing it on your mission, right, then you'll understand the toughness of it. And another thing, right, as I said in my first demo session itself, don't compare this with other languages. If you compare with other languages, right, you will confuse. You should make sure you should make yourself, your mind such a way that you are a layman and you're learning a new language, and that language is JavaScript. If you compare with other languages like Java and Python, right, you'll definitely confuse, because I have very good experience with Java, Python, C#, and as well as with JavaScript now. And from past 2 years, right, I'm working with from past 2 years, right, I was into JavaScript, and from past 1 year, right, I was actually using this Playwright. So I know that what difficulty that you will face initially when you're trying to migrate from your Java or Python to this JavaScript. But this is very important. If you want to get survived into this market for next 10 to 15 years, right, then you need to learn this tool only with JavaScript, not with Java or not with Python. Okay, it is very simple. But if I want to make sure that into layman terms, right, if you want to survive for next 10 to 15 years in IT market, right, then you need to learn only this Playwright tool with JavaScript only, not with Java or Python. Okay. If you want to get why I'm saying this one, right, go to Indeed Trends or go to your Naukri Trends and search with Playwright. You will see all openings only towards with JavaScript. No openings with Java or Python. If they are asking with Java or Python, then they will ask you Selenium or other tool. But if it is a Playwright, right, definitely they will ask you combination with JavaScript. Okay, don't believe my words. Just go to Google, your Google Trends or Naukri Trends and search for Playwright, and just search for Playwright job trends and check on which technology you have your openings. Okay, it is very new to the market, so say it's very simple. We have called up a lot of people to this particular meeting, but still, right, people are not aware, and people are not aware of the seriousness that what change that we are going to get into in our test automation. So anyway, it will take some time, but still, right, it's like it will take some time to understand and get back. When you're learning Playwright, right, it is always important that you're learning Playwright only with JavaScript. Because we had already done POCs with Java, we already done POCs with Python, and then we started using Playwright with JavaScript. So we have a lot of advantages when you're using it with JavaScript, with respect to speed, with respect to features, with respect to design, with respect to using AI relevant support, right? All these are very good with your Playwright when you're using that with your JavaScript. But anyway, we'll see in our next upcoming sessions, then you'll understand it. Okay, so this is what about your today's session, and tomorrow same time at 9 p.m. And if you're hearing anything, or if you're confusing anywhere, right, please let me know. In our next class, right, before starting our class, right, I will ask you if you have any questions or anything, right, you can raise it. So I will first explain that, and then we'll start with our actual session. Okay, please feel free to ask me. So thank you guys. Thank you for sparing me for last 1.5 hours. Okay, and we will resume this tomorrow at 9 p.m. Thank you.
Suman, I have a question. Oh my God. Hello, Anita.
Yeah, Ravi. Yeah, Chapandi.
He should wait. Even I said he's jumping off.
No. He left after that. He go. Okay, Chapandi.
So, we should ask him to wait at least for 30 seconds before somebody responds.
Okay, no problem.
So is there any doubts he's asking, and before we say he's continuously talking, it's like one way.
Even I felt the same first time. Sorry for the interruption. First time I'm joining. Even I felt the same. Like one way.
You can raise your hand. Okay, you can raise your hand and you can ask. No issues.
Okay, I have another question. Like, is it for only Playwright or JavaScript also?